lot to get to. This is Outnumbered Overtime. OT, baby. I dialed it back a bit because I want to go straight to the live chat. Thanks to all of you, all thousands of you. Miss Nanner says, if Hillary Rodham Clinton wants to, because she says HRC, wants to run again for POTUS, it will have to be under a different party. No way the Democrats are going to let her be on their ticket again. Thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, they're all blaming her. For right or wrong, they're saying the Clinton machine was in place. Everybody loves Obama. You know, everything. Yeah. It was all there. It was just her.
The establishment candidate at a time when people wanted change. Mm-hmm. So I agree with that. I just think her mental. I'm just really talking about her mental state. I believe that she just isn't ready to give up the dream.
It's an addiction, and honestly, like, power is an addiction to a lot of people and a lot of politicians, and I think she's been doing this for 30 years, and she probably doesn't know what to do after this, and she is surrounded by complete and utter sycophants. I know this for a fact, because I know some of them, and they are not sycophants and people that will just tell her, sure, run again, not your year, 2020 will be your year. It's a special kind of delusional.
Everybody wears plaid and polka dots. It looks great on you. Yeah. Go on.
But you would have to feel that way, because to me, it looks so awful. I can't imagine running for office. It looks brutal, exhausting, everyone's mean to you. Like, it just, it looks so difficult. For her to be committed to it for so long, you would have to be addicted to it. You would have to believe that you could always win. I mean, you would have to be in that mindset.
And everything she's put up with.
So long.
I mean, if you think about
so
all the stuff she's put up with in her life, with, you know, I mean, I don't want to go
into
it.
That's so sexist. No, like, you know what? Do you know why I'm okay talking about her age? Because people have no problem talking about my father's age when he ran, and he was younger than she was when she ran. Yeah. Age is a factor. What, she'd be 74, 75 when she ran? And she does have health problems.
I mean, if she runs again.
Yeah.
Jillian Lee, hello to you. You say, Steve, my absolutely favorite, one lucky guy. We like him too.
I like that.
Is she a relative? Or
I wrote that.
So what is this, Facebook?
This is Facebook.
You know what I
Live.
love about the Facebook Live when Sandra reads the shout-outs? Just to know where, like, everybody is watching
Aaron
from.
McDonald, Steve Hilton Rock speaks his mind and is rational. We think so, too. But, yeah, the shout-outs are good. Let us know where you're watching from. Love you guys from Colorado, says Susie. Lots of love for Steve Hilton. Wow. They like having you.
So
what does Obama say? I love you back.
I love you back.
He says that all the time.
Lots of questions about how the world will look at us and treat us based on a president-elect Donald Trump. And people are in different camps on that. But I want to discuss that. What do you think, Megan?
I think people are going to come around to it. I certainly have. It's been a long process for me as a more, I consider myself a really hardcore William F. Buckley conservative. Small government. I'm a very traditional Republican going back to the era of the 60s and 70s. So it's been a process for me to come to with a populist nationalist candidate. But I see a lot of good at Tom Cotton. These are great choices. Like, some of the people he's surrounding himself are people I really trust.
But in terms of how the world sees us.
The world's got to grow up. I really have very limited patience for this right now. He won. He tapped into anger that's relevant and important in this country, and a lot of people have done a lot wrong, and they can grow up. I don't like a lot of things that are happening overseas. I don't like that our president's in Greece right now, and Greece is bankrupt. I assume going to ask the United States and the European Union for money. That's what socialism does. Everybody has to grow up. It's been a long election.
So it's interesting because on the world stage right now, you and I were talking during the show, we saw an alert about the fact that Russia has just extricated itself from the council that looks at humanitarian issues and torture and those sorts of things. And I said, wow, so does that mean that they're just going to move in and take Ukraine? And you said, this is what it means.
Well, I think that with Ukraine, the truth is Obama was the one that stood by and let them do what they want. That's already happened. And so the response now is, does America want do the American people want this country to go and engage in some military effort to stop Russia taking Ukraine? I think the answer to that is no. But that's why we have NATO. America's a part of NATO, but it's got to be the Europeans that lead on that. Well, I think, though, that just on the world thing, I think there's no doubt that around the world the reaction will be, oh my God, look what they've done. They've elected this crazy guy. Look, we've had that before. That's what they said about Reagan. That's what they said about Bush. In the end, it will be what he does as president that really matters.
I know. We keep saying on the show all week, everybody's judging President-elect Donald Trump before he's even in office and has a chance to prove himself. Melissa, how old is your youngest again?
I have a 1-year-old daughter and a 6-year-old boy.
So she's 1 now.
Yeah.
Wow, that happened really fast. So I think this is a fun shout out from Kristen Mariano. She says, my 5-month-old daughter and I watch you ladies every day at noon before nap time. Hashtag girl power, hashtag daddy is outnumbered.
I like it.
As a matter of fact, I'm going to grab a nap right now.
Oh, that does sound good.
Nap time.
Going back to this idea of how are we being looked at on a world stage, I think that the bar is so low for Donald Trump that
That's a really good point.
like there's so much, and we've said it that way in our own government, and President Obama is setting it this way, that all he has to do is a few decent things, and everybody will turn the page on the whole thing. And be like, oh, he's so much better than we thought.
But it's how Americans looked at France when they elected a full-blown socialist as president. I mean, there's judgment both ways everywhere.
Exactly.
That's interesting. All right, so obviously people are taking it upon themselves to also answer this question online, which I love. Nice. So on the live chat,
I love that.
Liam says, I'm going to say people in ISIS, and I'm going to say, I don't call them people, I call them savages, but that's just me.
Monsters.
I'm going to say people in ISIS are going to be more hesitant to attack us on our own soil than they would have been if Clinton had been elected.
Yeah, because he said he'd bomb the blank out of them. Yeah. It's one of my favorite things Donald Trump ever said.
Yeah.
I hope our enemies know there will be recourse. The era of Obama, denuclearizing us and making our presence on the national stage much smaller and much weaker. It's done. It's over. I love that he will, if something happens,
he's got to show that one of the main recruiting things for ISIS is the fact that they apparently keep winning, they keep succeeding, they're not confronted, and that's one of the attractions for the young men that go for it. And if they suddenly start to see that turn around and actually ISIS is being defeated and you're not just going to get away with it, that will really help turn the tide, and I do think that's what Trump's intending to do.
All right, so shifting gears a little bit, Senator Bulworth says...
He tweets in a lot.
I know he does. And you know what? We don't even know if it's a he.
Or she, excuse me.
Right?
Yeah,
I was just realizing
the movie Bulworth, it was a man. So.
Right? Sanctuary city equals criminal safe space equals lawless enclaves. Anybody?
Well, it's true.
You had 60 seconds.
I know. It's only a few more minutes.
I just think it's what Melissa said. If you get to not obey that law, then Melissa and I are not going to pay taxes in New York anymore.
Yeah.
Look, I mean, the immigration system is completely broken, and there's so many aspects of that. It's not just the wall and so on. It's the immigration courts, the way decisions are. Look, all of that needs to be fixed, but in the end, you've got to have some basic principles, which is that laws need to be obeyed.
I don't think you stand in one city and say, as mayor of this city, I'm going to ignore federal law.
Exactly
we need to come together. We all agree it's broken in one way or the other. We have to come together and decide how we're going to fix it. And him saying, I'm going to sit here and do something totally separate. How can you be? He's part of the law enforcement.
How does he get away with that?
Take away funding.
I want to touch on this, and I'm going to ask this person. I see her picture here. I think it's Renee CH. I'm not sure on how to. It might be Renaa. But I want to get into this because I think it's interesting. Sick of seeing all the negativity in the comments. How many states did Donald Trump win to gather the electoral votes? Popular vote isn't relevant when it takes in just a few states in comparison. Love you all, love the show. I mean, people now are looking at this, and you saw Barbara Boxer out in California wants to take away the Electoral College. So Democrats don't like it anymore, apparently.
Right.
But she does have this point. Let's move on from the negativity. Are we ready to do that, or does it take... President Obama said yesterday he was going to give his staff 2 weeks.
Yeah, that was my
before
favorite.
They had to stop getting all upset. But what's the moratorium on trying to find a positive way forward?
It's a good question. I don't know, because I do think you need, I'm an advocate for when you get knocked down, you need a mourning period or else you don't get over it. So I do sympathize with the idea that the left is devastated.
Amazing, by the way.
I think that there are people who are devastated, and if you don't mourn about it, you probably don't ever get over it. But there is an expiration on it. Maybe it's a week.
Well, there's a fact of life, which is on the left. There is a lot of organising going on in terms of what they call the resistance and the fight back. There's really
safety pins.
Seriously.
Well, what about in your homeland? I mean, Brexit. Are the people who voted against it, are they okay now? Do they need safe spaces? Are they?
It's still very raw, actually.
Really?
Yeah, and that's 6 months now, and it's
but
still
did some
very
of their
divisive.
Fears come to fruition?
No, but it's a classic
I don't know.
example where people you know, it's a bit like with Trump. Like the warnings were so extreme. Like we're going to have an overnight worst recession in 50 years and all this kind of stuff. None of that has happened. But people jump on different facts.
Well, the market loves certainty.
Point.
So I think it would have been.
But it's still very raw. It's 6 months on, and there's definitely not been any kind of, you know, it's still incredibly contentious.
Interesting.
Thank you, sir.
As are you. Steve Hilton, thanks for being here.
Really good to have you.
tomorrow.
Thank you.
Yeah.